Welcome back. After working years right here in this studio, Eliott Rodriguez left the news business last year and said he was looking forward to spending more time with his family. But rather than kick back, he made the decision a few months ago to run for Congress. He is now in a competitive primary fight against former prosecutor Robin Peguero for the Democratic nomination in Congressional District 27. The winner will take on Republican Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar in a race Democrats believe they can flip this year. Eliott is here with us now. And Eliott, thanks for coming in. Does the place look familiar?
My pleasure. Wow, what a lot of memories I have here, Jim. 25 years I worked here. Thank you for the invitation to come back.
No, not at all. So let's start with a question. Robin Peguero is hitting you right now because you refuse to debate. We offered you the opportunity to sit here with Robin and do a debate with him so the voters of District 27 will be better informed. Why not debate your opponent?
Well, Jim, as you know, I got into this race late. I was working till December of last year in this very studio, and I didn't enter this race until March, so that is late. The gentleman you talk about has been running for a year for this seat. I have had a lot of catching up to do, and that's what I'm doing. I'm talking directly to voters. We're doing meet and greets. We're doing fundraisers. I'm doing interviews, and then I have to do it all over again in Espanol because this is a very heavily Hispanic district, so I'm reaching people in the language that they speak. So I've got my work cut out for me. My focus is Maria Elvira Salazar and the awful job she has done in Congress, and I'm the person who can flip the seat for the Democrats in August.
So let's expand on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Why do you believe you are better suited to that than Robin Peguero, who is a former prosecutor,
right,
who, as you said, has been in this race for a year? Why do you think you're the better choice?
Well, first of all, Jim, I don't know if you know this about me, but I've lived in this district, in District 27, since I was 12 years old, since my family moved here from New York. I like to say that when I write a book, the title will be From Anchor Baby to Anchor Man, because I am the child of 2 Cuban immigrants in New York. But when I was 12, we moved to South Florida, and I have lived in this district ever since. So I am the person who knows the district, who is known in the district for my years working on television, and people allowed me into their homes, and I feel like I earned their trust. I worked hard every day to earn their trust, and now I'm asking them earn their votes. And by the way, we have done internal polling that shows that I'm the person who can go to win the primary and defeat Maria Elvira Salazar.
So I guess one of the questions I would have is, again, as voters in the Democratic primary go to the polls to choose between you and Robin Peguero, can you identify any significant policy differences? Do you think that you're supportive of something that he's not, or are you critical of anything? So I just want to try to understand the contrast between yourself and your opponent in the primary on August 18th.
We probably agree on most of the issues. I've heard him speak, and he's a admirable young man. He has every right in the world to run. But Jim, people ask me, what kind of Democrat are you? I say, I'm the type of Democrat who's tired of losing elections. And I strongly feel that I am the person who can flip the seat. I am the person who can beat Maria Elvira Salazar in November.
So it's an electability argument. You believe you're better suited than Robin Peguero to take on Salazar.
100%.
All right, but let's talk about that then. Why? So make the case as to why you think you're the best, why you think you can beat Salazar, who I will note has right now more than almost $3 million of fundraising, cash on hand that she has. Your fundraising has been good, but not really. You're not blowing the socks off anybody. You posted $300,000 in your last quarter. That's not a great quarter. Why do you think you're going to be able to beat Salazar?
Well, we have a grassroots campaign. We have 3,000 donors, and the average donation is about $150, $160 in that range. So it's grassroots. I don't have any corporations, any PACs, and we are reaching people and a lot of small donations. So we're very proud of that. Maria Elvira Salazar is known for saying one thing and doing something else. In fact, you interviewed her on this show. And I remember when you fact-checked her live on the air, when she was taking credit for bringing money for infrastructure projects, and you stopped her and said, no, you didn't vote for that. That wasn't the only time she's done that, Jim. She's done that on other occasions where she has taken credit for votes that she did not take, funds that she voted against. I devoted my career to truth and facts. So I am the person who will has that credibility, trust and credibility to this race.
And I will note that we have invited Maria Elvira Salazar on this show repeatedly since that interview and her campaign, and she refuses to come back on. So that tells you something there. So let's talk about what you think are the major issues in this race. Obviously, this was a district in which health care and the Affordable Care Act, this was the #1 congressional district. More people had signed up for Obamacare, ACA, and receiving subsidies in this district than any other congressional district in the country. She ended up voting, I think she voted to maintain the subsidies, but the overall bill passed.
Right.
Talk to me about why you think it's relevant for you to now come on.
Absolutely. Let's make it clear. She voted for the big, beautiful bill which cut people off those health care subsidies. And you're right. This district, District 27, has the biggest population of Obamacare enrollees. These are people who depend on this for their health insurance, and she voted to cut them off their health care. This is a woman who constantly is talking about the lack of medical attention in Cuba, yet she is cutting people in her own district off their medical care. I want to go to Washington to get those subsidies returned to them. I want to go to Washington to focus, Jim, on the overriding issue in this race, which is the cost of living, something that has affected my family. My daughters have had to move out of South Florida because it's simply unaffordable. My daughter Chanti just moved to North Carolina 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and the way I found out was my wife was crying in bed one night. She had just found out that our daughter, our son-in-law, and our 1-year-old grandson have to move to North Carolina because they can't afford to live here. I want to face the affordability issue, bring federal funding here for affordable housing, fight against these tariffs that have made everything more expensive, fight against this immigration policy, which is cruel and inhumane, which has made the cost of labor more expensive and has people in this district living in fear. They don't want to go out. And as we speak, we have ICE agents out on the street grabbing people who are at a Home Depot, who are working, who are contributing to this economy, and that shouldn't be happening.
Would you vote to abolish ICE?
I want to abolish the type of behavior that I've seen, absolutely. Of course, I am for secure borders. I am for obeying our immigration laws. I am not for masked agents driving around cities in unmarked cars, pulling people over without judicial warrants, and they have the blood of American citizens on their hands, including American citizens who were exercising their right to protest and their right to use a camera to film what is unconstitutional behavior and should be illegal behavior. So I definitely would take a very, very hard look at ICE. Why is it the law enforcement agency in this country that has the biggest budget? It's almost like it's becoming a private militia for the Trump administration. So we need to take a very, very hard look at that. And I would abolish those tactics, yes.
We're currently at war in Iran. Would you vote to continue authorizing funding for that war?
No, this war should not have happened without the Trump administration consulting Congress. They didn't consult Congress. They did not consult congressional leaders. They did not consult our allies. And look at what we're in now. This is a $1 billion a day war that should not have happened, that has made the Middle East more dangerous. And I would not continue funding for that until the administration comes to Congress and explains what is the end goal in Iran.
In the time that we have left, I think you touched on it a little bit, but let's broaden out a little bit. Why are you doing this? Why are you running for Congress?
You know, Jim, I compare it to the house is on fire and I'm a volunteer fireman showing up at the scene. It's the urgency of now. We are living in a critical time in our country. I strongly believe that our Constitution is under attack, our democracy is under attack, our right to due process is under attack. We have an immigration policy that's cruel and inhumane, and we have an economic crisis that's not being addressed by our current Congresswoman, Maria Elvira Salazar, somebody who does insider trading, somebody who says she took votes that she didn't take, and somebody who's dishonest with the residents of District 27.
When you look at the environment right now for Democrats, you sort of see a lot going on with the Democratic Socialists of America and that movement right now. Talk to me about what you see taking place within the Democratic Party and whether or not you think that's dangerous, because that is going to be used by any Republican to run against any Democrat, is that Democrats are nothing but socialists and communists.
Right. And I hear that all the time. And by the way, I'm a lifelong Democrat. My father was a Cuban-American Democrat because he admired Lyndon Johnson for signing the Civil Rights Act. So I think that it's kind of a ridiculous statement to say, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a communist or a socialist. And what's happening in New York has nothing to do with Miami. This is Miami. That's not going to work. One of the things I find crazy is, oh, government-owned grocery stores. My father owned a grocery store. They're going to compete with my dad's bodega in the Bronx. So I don't get that. That's not me. I'm not socialist or communist. I have a track record of being anti-communist of all the times that I've been to Cuba, and my track record with human rights activists in Cuba, going back to Osvaldo Payá, the ladies in white, Elizardo Sanchez, all of the main dissidents in Cuba I've interviewed. I've traveled to Venezuela. I have lived the tragedy of Cuba. My family has been separated. My father's business that his family had was nationalized. My uncles and cousins went from being owners of the business to being employees. So I've seen what communism and socialism has done, and that is not who I am.
Eliott, thank you very much for coming in. And we will have Eliott's opponent in the primary, Robin Peguero, here next week to offer his perspective